Now I'm going to record. Recording in progress. Welcome to Radio Free Nachlaot's 12th annual 9 Days of Jerry. And we are about to go live on Facebook Live. We'll see if that works. And yes, go live. Okay. Steve, you can cut out this beginning on the audio file.
That's
but
fine. Hey, this is the fun part, you know. How do they do it? You know,
how did they do it? Indeed.
Okay, media is now streaming live on Facebook. I got that message.
It says that? Unbelievable. Baruch Hashem.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Are we actually live on Facebook?
Yeah, why not? It
I
says
don't
so.
see why not. Okay, Baruch Hashem, welcome everybody. I'm going to start over. It's the 12th annual 9 Days of Jerry, day 2, August 2nd. In the beginning, there was August 1st, Jerry Garcia's birthday. This year, the 79th birthday, which of course is going to help us a lot next year when it's his 80th birthday and our 13th annual, because 13 in Gematria is Ahava, which is love. So we're going to have a lot to play with. But right now we're in the number 12 in this world of just like right on the cusp of Jerry's 80th birthday. Today's August 2nd, and we have our special guest with us, Shaul Magid, who is a Jewish studies professor, an author, a raconteur, a provocateur, and most importantly, a wonderful banjo player whose deep love for Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, and all sorts of banjo music has led him to this day. See here how everything leads up to this day, Shaul, and it's just like every other day that might have been. Welcome to Radio Free Nachlaot.
Thank you, Lorelai. Thank you, Steve, for having me. The pleasure.
Yes, hello. So
talk to us about your show that you're thinking about.
Okay, so what I was interested in doing is looking at Jerry Garcia in particular as an interpreter of other people's music, and in a way we all know that the Grateful Dead played a lot of covers, not as much as some other bands, but they made some covers very famous, and Going Down the Road Feeling Bad, Johnny Be Good, all of that kind of stuff. But Garcia in particular was, he really comes out of a folk idiom, right? So he comes out of a time when musicians in that folk revival in the 50s and early 60s, right? They didn't really write their own song, right? It was always about playing a repertoire of music. Of a time when musicians in that folk, I'm hearing kind of playback. In the 50s and early 60s, right? They didn't really write their own song, right? It was always about
Lorelai, mute your Facebook because we're hearing it through the microphone.
Okay, sorry about that. Go ahead.
Okay, Shaul. Go
ahead.
Okay,
so what so basically, I it's a very interesting anecdote. I heard an interview with Dave Van Ronk. Dave Van Ronk was one of the great impresarios of the folk revival in the 50s. He was also known as the mayor of McDougal Street. There's a great biography of him called Mayor of McDougal Street. And he said that one of the radical things about Dylan when he showed up in 61, 62 to the Village was that he started writing his own songs. And that was something that people didn't do, right? They played a folk repertoire that goes back sometimes into the 19th century, but bands like the Weavers and Pete Seeger and Burl Ives, they were all basically playing this folk repertoire. And Dylan comes and starts to write his own songs, which was actually very radical at the time. And something that I noticed about Jerry Garcia, especially in the non-Grateful Dead musical projects that he was in, because we all know that he was involved in all of these musical projects, even during the time that he was playing with the Grateful Dead, was that he very often went back and played other people's music, or played old ballads, or played old kinds of things. And sometimes they got integrated into his work with the Grateful Dead, but Legions of Mary, the Jerry Garcia Band, Old and in the Way, his recordings with Merle Sanders, right? In those places, he's playing this. And what's so interesting to me, of somebody like a lot of people who are listening, who sees themselves very kind of deeply involved in the Jewish tradition, right? We're a very interpretive tradition. And when you play somebody else's music, you're really actually functioning as an interpreter. And I think that one of the things that I found to be the most inspiring about Garcia was his interpretations of songs, the way he was able to really not only play another person's song, but really give it a particular kind of rendering that it didn't have in its original or it didn't have in other people. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to go through a series of recordings that Garcia did. I tried to keep them live if I could, of playing other people's music or playing old time songs. And this goes to playing the prison songs, to playing post Civil War slave songs, Sweet Sunny South, for example, that he does with David Grisman, to playing obviously Dylan songs. He came out with a couple of CDs of Dylan covers, to playing Delta songs like Lewis Collins that he plays with David Grisman, to playing material like Peggy-O that was made famous by Buddy Holly, but of course goes back to an old Scottish ballad and an old English ballad, and various other songs. And of course Jimmy Cliff, he became very interested in Jimmy Cliff, The Harder They Come and Sitting Here in Limbo. And I think what's so interesting about this is that it came to me once in an interview that I saw done with Peter Rowan. Peter Rowan, of course, was a guitar player for Old and in the Way, but he cut his teeth playing guitar for Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys back in the early 60s. And what he said about Garcia, he said one of the things that he found the most distinctive about Garcia was that he was really able to embody the character in the song. Like, you really felt, you could see that particularly with two tunes that we're going to play, Off to Sea Once More, which is a sea ballad, and Walking Boss, which is actually a prison song from the early 20th century, that you feel like he's really kind of becoming the character of the song. Not only in his guitar playing, but also in his vocals. And this is something that's worth talking about more, that I think we talked about last year a little bit, that one of the underrated things about Garcia, I've always thought, is him as a vocalist. And people talk about the very distinctive style that he has as a guitar player, but he actually really was quite an accomplished vocalist. And if you read interviews with him, you see that he spent a lot of time on his vocals. And one of his influence, he said in vocals, was Mississippi John Hurt, who was a Delta blues player who originally was found, I think, by the Lomaxes, and ended up coming to New York and cutting a record in 1928, then disappeared for 40 years and was rediscovered, ended up coming to Newport Folk Festival. So, I mean, it's important as we listen to the music, really to listen to his vocals, because that's where I think that's where, for me, the interpretive genius comes out for Garcia. Really as a vocalist, and the way he's able to capture, like, he wasn't a great vocalist. I mean, he didn't have very good range, didn't always hit the right notes, but there was something that was actually deeply interpretive about the way he understood how to perform and how to, in a certain sense, revive the character in the song. And very often in these cases, as is the case with traditional music more generally, like, it's very laconic, it's very sad, it's very depressing, it's very hard scrabble, it's very impoverished. The stories are very sad and they're very tragic. I mean, it's not that music is not happy music. So I think that there are a number of different Jerry Garcias. I mean, I think Jerry Garcia with the Grateful Dead is one iteration of Jerry Garcia. And that, in a certain sense, gets refracted through, in a way, the imagination of Robert Hunter and the lyrics that Hunter gave to him in a certain way. As a friend of mine once said, Jerry Garcia didn't really exist. He was a figment of the imagination of Robert Hunter. And in a certain sense, right, Hunter's lyrics kind of created a certain kind of persona. But then if you go off and you see the stuff that he does with Old and in the Way and Merle Sanders and Jerry Garcia Band and David Grisman, there's another Garcia that comes out. And it's a Garcia that really loves American music. And I think that's one of the things that was the basis of his friendship with Dylan, because I think Dylan also had a real deep knowledge and love of American music. And I think Garcia did too, and I think they shared that. So in a way, it's interesting that he keeps going back in his career. keeps going back to that old music, playing those old kinds of things. So I picked out a bunch of tunes which I liked in particular, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will say, well, there's another version and another tune and so on, and that's great. I mean, there's a lot of covers that he did. So I want to start with one of the earliest recordings of Jerry in 1963 with Sarah Lupenthal, who was his first wife, and this recording actually took place a week after their wedding in the Bay Area. And they're playing a tune called Deep Ellum Blues. And Deep Ellum Blues is a tune that I think the Dead may have played a couple of times. I think they may have played it in their acoustic sets. It's a kind of a early 20th century tune. Ellum was a suburb or some neighborhood in Dallas, actually the hometown of Leadbelly. And so it seems like Deep Ellum Blues is a kind of Delta blues song that comes out of that, and he covers that with Sarah Lupenthal. This recording is from a coffee house, I think, in Palo Alto. You want to cue that up?
Excellent, will do. Hold the phone, people. It's all about the technology. Whoops. Okay.
So, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So a few things. First of all, I don't know who's playing mandolin there, but somebody is certainly playing mandolin. And the other thing is that it was very much the style, and certainly in the early 60s, and and toward the mid 60s, that the idea of there's a kind of a bluegrass version of Deep Ellum Blues, that the idea of bluegrass at that time was just basically as you play as fast as you can. And you see that there's that kind of sense of really playing fast. And later on, there's a couple of versions that I've heard of Garcia playing Deep Ellum Blues acoustically, either with John Kahn on bass, that's a little slower and more melodic. But it gives you a taste of that early kind of influence of what he was doing in the coffee houses in the early 60s.
It was going very fast, indeed. That was their honeymoon recording. They had just been married.
Exactly. I think the week before. I don't know how long they were married. I don't know if it was that long, but however long it was. Another tune. The next tune I want to play is a tune that people might know because he recorded it in a number of times with David Grisman, and that's a prison song called "Walking Boss," which is really about a chain gang, and basically prisoners, if they were needed to go to the bathroom while they were out in the fields, they would have to basically say "Walking Boss," meaning that I'm going in wherever they were going to do what they had to do. This version is a live version from the Warfare Theater in San Francisco from 1991, so it's a kind of later version. But I found this to be actually a very soulful version. So let's listen to it. And also, I think you can hear that especially in this version, like Garcia really kind of trying to embody the figure of the kind of prisoner who was completely kind of subjugated himself to the prison guard.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
said, son, what can you do? I can line a chair, lay a trail, lay a trail. I can pick and shovel too. Walking bones, walking bones, walking bones. I don't belong to you. I belong, I belong, I belong to that steel driving car.
There you see Jerry wiping his forehead, looking over at David, just like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
They're working hard, you know. I've noticed over the years, it seemed that when Jerry played the acoustic guitar, he really paid attention, or he had to, I don't know if he had to work harder than the electric guitar, but there was something about the intensity when he's playing the acoustic guitar as to when he would just play the electric guitar with the Dead. I don't know. I just sense something going on.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard him in an interview say something to the effect of like, I don't really think I'm a very good acoustic guitar player. Like, I don't think he had the confidence that he had an electric guitar. And it does, playing acoustic guitar when you're playing just with a mandolin player, maybe you're playing a bass player, you do have to work harder. I mean, you really have to get the tone. You really have to work harder. I mean, the electricity does a lot for you. So I think that's probably true. His relationship with Grisman is an interesting one because they actually hung out together in the early 60s in the Bay Area when they were like kids. And Grisman was a kind of Jewish kid from New Jersey who was a great kind of protege mandolin player. He was playing mandolin in bands when he was like 13. And he and Jerry and a bunch of other people hung out together like 63, 64, out in the kind of the coffee house scene. Then they lost touch for many, many years. And decades later, they both were involved in some kind of musical legal thing that they had to either do a deposition for or testify, and they actually they met each other in the stairway. Garcia was going down from the deposition and Grisman was going up, and they hadn't seen each other in like 15, 20 years, and they struck up a conversation. And Grisman lives in San Rafael in Marin, and Garcia was living there too, but they really didn't even know that the two of them were living so close to each other, and they started to hang out together. And then, a lot of things happened. What happened after they started rehearsing and playing together, Garcia said, "Oh, if I can get some gigs at the Warfare, I can get some gigs at the Warfare Theater if you want to play live." So Grisman wasn't doing anything musically at that time, then he couldn't do it. So they ended up. This was some of the shows that they did. Then you have that famous pizza tapes with Tony Rice, which is a whole other story about how that happened, and we'll play a cut from that too.
And there's also the movie or the video that came out. Great, can you hear me? The video that came out, Grateful Dog, which is a video of Grisman and Garcia in the studio. It may have been the time of the pizza tape sessions. I forget.
Yeah.
And you see these two guys they were just so friendly. It was just being in their living room with them. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing that video, and I think that in that video, Grissman tells the real story about what happened with the pizza tapes, how it was stolen by a pizza delivery guy, and then later they just happened to hear the cuts on the radio. He sold some of the tracks to some radio station.
Hey, that's us.
Yeah.
Look at that.
But it's funny because Grissman and Garcia were very different musically, in that Grissman was raised in this very, very rigid kind of bluegrass genre where he was really a perfectionist, and you play things exactly the way they were supposed to be played. I mean, that's what Bill Monroe really, really cultivated among the bluegrass world. You didn't mess around, you didn't improvise, you played exactly what you were supposed to play, and that certainly wasn't the way Garcia saw music.
Well, in the Grateful Dead movie, Garcia says that the reason he had to get out of bluegrass was because it was just driving him nuts.
Yeah.
Because with bluegrass you got to be exact, you got to play faster, and he goes, he was like just practicing all the time, and it just like was like too much.
Right.
And he exploded, and we got the Grateful Dead. Anyway.
Right. Exactly. At one point, Grissman is talking about the difference in their styles, and Grissman is saying that I was trained in this very, very kind of rigid thing, and it's like for Garcia it was like it's just another note, like what difference does it make? Right. If it fits, it fits. That was part of it. I wanted to play this next tune, which is this incredibly heart-wrenching tune, Off to Sea Once More, which is it's a sea shanty that was written in the 1850s of a whaler who's going out whaling in the Bering Sea, and it's this kind of like hard luck story of this guy. He goes out, he comes back, he has his money, he hires a prostitute, the prostitute rips him off, he has no money left, and so he has to go off to sea once more. And it's the kind of thing like going out to sea in the Bering Strait is not a pleasant experience, right? As the song says, right where Jamaica rum would freeze. I mean, this is not something that you wanted to do. But I think that Garcia really embodies that kind of laconic sense of those kinds of people. So let's play that. That's number 4 on the list.
Okay.
That's with Grissman too.
Okay.
When first I come to Liverpool, I went upon the street. My money at last I spent too fast, got drunk as drunk could be. And when my money was all gone, 'cause then I wanted more. But a man must be blind to make up his mind to go to sea once more. Last night I spent with Angela, too drunk to admit. My watch was new and my money too. In the morning with them she fed. And as I roamed the streets about, the haulers they all would roll. Here comes Jack Rackle, saying, but he must go to sea once more. As I was walking down the street, I met with Rapper Brown. I asked him for to take me in, and he looks at me with a frown. He said, last time you were paid off with me, you look no strong. But I'll take your advance and I'll give you a chance, and I'll send you to sea once more. I sailed on board of a whaling ship bound to the Arctic seas. The cold wind blows and the frost and the snow, and Jamaican rum would freeze. And worse than bear, I'd no hard weather gear, for I'd lost all my money ashore. Was then I wished that I was dead, so I'd go to sea no more. Some days we're catching winds, and some days we're catching none. With a 20-foot old bound to our hands till 4 o'clock in the morning. And when the shade of night falls in, we'd rest on our weary oars. Then I wish that I was dead, or safe with the girls or she. Come all you hard-working sailors and listen to my song. When you get off of them long trips, I'd have yous not go wrong. Take my advice, drink no strong drink, don't go sleeping with no whores. Get married, lads, and have all right, and go to sea.
That's a very sweet. It's a very sweet tune there.
I was thinking
Yeah, the
about
Jerry
how,
the minstrel, you know.
Yeah, right.
I was thinking, Shaul, about what you were saying about how he embodied something that was not something that was different than his Jerry Garcia in the Grateful Dead persona in a lot of these things. And I think a lot about the documentary by Amir Lev, Long Strange Trip, and the whole Frankenstein motif and the very early days of his life, his early years, losing his finger, down by the river with his father. Like, there was some dark things that happened along the way. And it's also very kind of time, like beyond the time he was currently living in. It seemed to have reached back to another time in a sense. There was some kind of a connection there. Very hard to put into words, but I find in all of these songs that he, even like if you want to take like Wharf Rat, okay, Wharf Rat, I think is the Grateful Dead equivalent to that sort of voice that he embodies in this other way. Like, how does he know how to do that? He connects somewhere in his neshama with that poignant thing that I don't even know how to name it, but he's got it, and he knows how to bring the music through it in that flavor.
Yeah, I think so. He really was basically a kind of street urchin. He was pretty much living on the streets. But from the time he was 15 or 16, got kicked out of school, got kicked out of the army. He was a person that was really like many, many other people in San Francisco at that time, who really didn't really have a stable home. And his father, obviously his father died when he was a kid. And I think that trauma. And then there was a kind of famous automobile accident where he was almost killed and his friend was killed. So yeah, I think there's a real darkness to him as a person. And I think the darkness of the Grateful Dead is really kind of, it's refracted through him and through Pigpen. And he and Pigpen were really very, very close. And Pigpen's death also in 72 was incredibly traumatic for him, and something that he talked about and said that he never really kind of got over. I don't know if people out there know of a very well-known scholar of religion named Elaine Pagels, who teaches at Princeton. And Elaine Pagels wrote a book called Why Religion? And in the beginning of the book, she talks about the fact that she's a high school kid in Palo Alto and then San Francisco, and she spent the summer living with a bunch of guys, and because she was the girlfriend of one of these guys, it happened to be the Grateful Dead in Haight-Ashbury, and she had no idea who they were because they were just like kids that had a rock and roll band. There were hundreds of rock and roll bands. Her boyfriend, as I remember it in the book, her boyfriend was the one who was killed in the automobile accident. And wow. I went out to dinner with her, and my wife and I went to dinner with her at Princeton. We were sitting there in some really nice restaurant, and I didn't want to bring it up. Kind of, she's Elaine Pagel. She's like a figure, a very important kind of scholar. I really didn't want to bring up the whole Grateful Dead thing in the beginning of the book. And then at one point, I said, "Oh, I read your book. I read your book," and somehow the conversation of Jerry Garcia came up, and she just started talking and telling all of these like hilarious anecdotes about these guys that would come and they would crash. She had an apartment; they would crash on her couch, and everyone was just kind of hanging out. And then she kind of just lost. She just kind of lost. She went to graduate school in like 1967 or 1968, and she kind of lost touch with them. That's funny. It was really a funny connection.
That's amazing. Those back stories, those back pages.
Right.
But there's something that you touched on a minute ago about the like eternality of music and of songs. And we have, there's a parallel. We have the idea that the Torah is nitzchi, it's forever. It may be describing events that took place in the desert or at Har Sinai. It may be talking about things that a lot of people want to pigeonhole to only it was for that time in that place. But if you can take a look at it globally, you realize it is eternal. And when you connect to it, you are then connecting to all of eternity. And the same thing happens with music. I really think music, no matter where it comes from, no matter where it's going, it's a continuum. It's an eternal continuum. And when you connect to that music, especially from the inside, not just from the outside, but like Jerry, when you become the musician, when you become the person who is now responsible for maintaining the continuum, you end up getting this energy, which maybe you didn't even realize you had. So when he sings that song, you're experiencing this guy who just like has to go back out to sea.
Right.
And it's breaking your heart all over again,
Right.
Anyway.
No, for sure. I think another great example of this, for me anyway, is as interpreter is some of the especially some of the early stuff of Shlomo Carlebach, because here what Shlomo is doing, he's taking either psalms or liturgy and he's setting them to music, but it's all an interpretive frame. So when he sets to music Baruch Nafshi, right, he's bringing out a particular part of the liturgy that you wouldn't necessarily get if it wasn't connected to that kind of tune. So it's more than simply setting words to music. It's really interpreting the words and drawing out, as you say, Steve, that kind of eternal sense of those lyrics. And it kind of, in a way, what great interpreters do is they transport you.
Right.
They bring you back to some other place that you've never been. Right. Yeah. Cool. This other track, next one I'll play, just get away from Grisman a little bit, is an interesting rehearsal recording of Whiskey in the Jar. I mean, Whiskey in the Jar is a 19th century Scottish Irish street ballad that was supposedly originally a limerick that was probably originated sometime around 1860, 1870. And the Dead play it in a number of places, but this is an interesting moment because it's like Garcia's just saying, oh yeah, I think I remember the song, but I'm not sure the words, and then they kind of just start.
Is this a version from the studio version, a rehearsal version?
Yeah, from 1993. Yeah.
I think when I listen to this, to me, this is the quintessential picture of what it must have been like at a Dead rehearsal.
Right.
Even though there are a lot of rehearsal tapes, but to me, this must have been what it was like. I love this. I'm glad you're playing this.
Okay, good. So let's do Whiskey in the Jar, number 7.
All right. Bezrat Hashem Bli Nader. I'll get it right.
Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Some take delight in the carriage of rolling, others take delight in fishing and bowling. I take delight in the fruit of the barley, courting pretty women in the morning so early. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar.
What is the name of that?
Whiskey in the Jar, it's
Whiskey
called.
in the Jar.
That's the song that has I Am a Bold Deceiver in it.
Years ago.
Yeah,
Right.
I haven't heard that one in 30 years.
Yeah, right. I haven't either. I just remembered it.
The whole song, words and all.
Well,
Whack for the whack for
Whack for the daddy-o.
Whack
Whack
for
for
the
the daddy-o.
Right. It's got
Daddy-o.
great lyrics. It's a
God,
cool
wonderful
song.
stuff.
Yeah, it's a cool song.
I guess that's Irish.
I hope so.
Yeah.
As I was walking
Try
over
slower.
Kildare Mountain, met Colonel Pepper and his money he was counting. Fired off my pistols and I rattled my saber, saying stand and deliver, for I am a bold deceiver. Moshe ring dum dum. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. Let's see. Them shiny golden coins sure look bright and jolly. Took the money home and I gave it to my Molly. She promised and she vowed that she never would deceive me. But the devil's in the women and they never can be easy. Moshe ring dum dum. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o, there's whiskey in the jar. I was awake between the hours of 6 and 7. Guards stood round my bed in numbers odd and even. I Didn't have my pistol, so they turned out the prison. Da 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 da. Mush around, whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. Slow down a little. See. They put me in jail without a judge or jury for cold purple pepper in the morning so early. They didn't take my fists, so I knocked down a sentry. Bid a long farewell to that cold penitentiary. Push a ring 'em, do 'em down. Whack ball, daddy-o, whack ball, daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. Some take delight in fishing and bowling. Others take delight in the carriage of rolling. I take delight in the juice of the barley, courting pretty women in the morning so early. Mush around, doing down. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar. As I was riding over Kilgara Mountain, I met Colonel Pepper and his money he was counting. Shot off my pistols and I rattled my saber, saying stand and deliver, for I am a boldly seeing ocean wind coming down. Whack for the daddy-o, whack for the daddy-o. There's whiskey in the jar.
Yeah, that's
Jerry says it. Nice. Nice.
right.
How does he just remember that? Like how just, I haven't thought about it in 30 years, but wait, here it is.
Yeah, he must have had the lyrics. I can't imagine that he really remembered all the lyrics. But there's another version of it in the 8 CD volume called Too Many Roads. I think there's a longer version. It's probably of the same rehearsal thing. I don't know if they ever really played it. I don't know if they ever really played it live. That would be for the dead aficionados.
It's funny. There's a Thin Lizzy version of that. You know, like hard rock fast.
Right. I'm sure.
I prefer this version much better.
Right. I want to make sure we get to like some of the Beatles covers, his version of Dear Prudence, which is great, and also some of the Dylan stuff and the Jimmy Cliff stuff. So I mean, maybe I would like one more because it's very sweet. It's also, it gives you a studio sense of the record that a lot of people really aren't that familiar with. Not for Kids Only, that he did with David Grisman. And this is the song, I think one of the better songs on the record for me is the song Jenny Jenkins, which is a kind of an old time ballad of Unknown Thing. But it's just, if you're on Facebook and you can see it, it's really just a video of Jerry and David sitting in David's studio in San Rafael, California, in his basement, kind of doing a version of it. So let's do the Jenny Jenkins, which is number 6.
Okay. This is 44 seconds. That's not right. Hold on. Which one is, I think it's the top one, yeah?
Yeah, it's the top one, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We might not get the video of it, but anyway, we'll get the tune.
We'll do our best.
Yeah.
Will you wear white, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear white, Jenny Jenkins?
No, I won't wear white, for the color's too bright. I'll buy me a foldy roly tilly tolly seek a double user cause a road to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll.
Will you wear green, oh my dear?
green, it's a shame to be seen. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Will you wear blue, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear blue, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear blue, for the color's too true. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Will you wear yellow, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear yellow, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear yellow, for I'd never get a fellow. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Will you wear brown, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear brown, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear brown, for I'd never get around. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Will you wear beige, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear beige, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear beige, for it shows my age. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Will you wear orange, oh my dear, oh my dear? Will you wear orange, Jenny Jenkins? No, orange I won't wear, and it rhymes so there. I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. What will you wear, oh my dear, oh my dear? What will you wear, Jenny Jenkins? Oh, what do you care if I just go bare? I'll buy me a folder, roller, tilly, tolly, seek a double, use a cozy roll to find me. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll. Roll, Jenny Jenkins, roll.
Yeah. What I like about that tune is it actually shows a real lighter side of him. You know, that it's just kind of music is just about having fun. So I'll play all of these kind of like old kid songs, and there's something that I think Grissman brought that out of him a lot, of just kind of doing that.
And they're great songs, and they're not for kids only. The mandolin vocalist in my band has been wanting to do Jenny Jenkins for a year already. So let's and maybe now I'll get inspired and I'll say, okay, let's work.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, it's a cool little song. I could stay with some of this older stuff, but I do want to get to some of his other music, especially because I think he's one of the better interpreters of Dylan that there are. I mean, I think the only person that comes close to him as an interpreter of Dylan is Richie Havens, and Richie Havens is also a master interpreter of Dylan. But I think that there's something about the way in which he's able to kind of again embody those kinds of lyrics in the Dylan songs. I think is actually quite good. Before that, I just wanted to play one tune from the Jerry Garcia band from the Capitol Theater 1980, his version of the Beatles' "Dear Prudence." It's a bit long. It's very, very sweet. It's a bit long, so maybe Lorelai, we don't have to go through the whole thing. I think it goes like 8 minutes, but you get the point after four. So
I want you to know when I had gone up to Hartford to Jerry Garcia band show, and they did that as the encore, and it was the first tour that he was doing that, and no one expected it. And it was true. I just actually played that last night in the radio. It was just so amazing that he just interprets Dear Prudence like no one else. It's
Beautiful. It's really beautiful.
Worth listening to.
Yeah. Okay. That's number 11.
Okay, is this one from the 3/1/1980 Capitol Theater show or the
That's it.
7/26/80 Capitol Theater show?
Oh, I don't have that on
10
mine.
minutes or 12 minutes?
It's
10
well,
minutes.
let's do the 10 minute, but let's cut it off after 5 because
All right.
you get the point.
All right, kids. It's Musaf.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay.
Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, greet the brand new day. Hey, the sun is up, the birds will sing that you are part of everything. Dear Prudence, won't you come out to play? Dear Prudence, open up your eyes. Dear Prudence, see the sunny sky. The sun is up, the sky is blue. It's beautiful. Some are you, dear Prudence. Won't you open up your eyes? Go round, round, round. Look around, round, round. Look around, round, round. Look around, round, round. like a little child. The clouds will be a daisy chain. So let me see you smile again, dear Prudence. Won't you let me see you smile? Round, round, round. Look around, look around, round, round. Look around, round, round. Look around, round, round.
I'm sorry, it's no such thing as fade out on my
It's like if
I'm not
all,
running the radio side. You are, Steve. That's
Yeah.
the problem.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like,
I heard
I
it.
hate to interrupt him, it's like, okay, I know it's 10 minutes, but
Yeah.
like, do you interrupt the Chazan during Kedusha? I don't.
Well, look, I sent you the message, and then a minute later, Shaul sent you the same message.
I know.
And I'm like, but when?
after a solo,
Yeah. It's really like finding that exit door is not so easy sometimes.
That's what drum space is for.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to actually kind of turn to Dylan. There's some great Dylan stuff. I mean, we don't have the time. There's a version of Visions of Johanna that he played in '95 that was fabulous. But I
just want to interrupt you. I saw you said that, and Jerry liked ballads, and it didn't matter how many verses they had.
Exactly. Yeah, but then
26 verses. Jackaro, 26 verses. I mean,
right. But then you have to remember all those verses, and it's not always so easy to do. I know that. So I wanted to, because I want to do one of his cuts with Merle Saunders from 1973. So let's do Positively 4th Street.
Okay, that's always a good one.
Yeah, it's number 15.
All right, kids, hold on. Okay. It's from the album, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes. The album was, I saw them live at the Keystone when I was an undergrad at San Francisco State University in 1976.
Wow.
It was quite the show.
I'm
All right,
sure.
here we go.
You've got a lot of nerve to say you are my friend. When I was down, you just stood there grinning. You've got a lot of nerve to say you got a helping hand today. You just wanna be on the side that's winning. You say I let you down. You know it's not like that. You're so hurt. position and your place. Don't you understand? It's not my problem. You see me on the street, you always act surprised. You say good luck, how are you? But you don't mean it. You know as well as me, you'd rather see me paralyzed. Why don't you just come out once and scream it? I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes. Just for that one moment, I could be you. I wish that for just one time you could stand inside my shoes. You know what a drag it is to see you.
Steve, alert, alert, alert. I saw a picture of Bonnie Raitt with Jerry on stage together. When was that?
Yes, yeah. Go off mute, Steve.
Yeah, that was at the Greek Theater. I can look up the year, but we have a recording of Bonnie Raitt from the Greek, and she talks about that show, how she was at that show, and her father was at that show, and they had gone backstage, and he had some of the goodies backstage, and apparently got the munchies in the middle of the show. Anyway, yeah, Bonnie and Jerry at the Greek. Yes, she does 2 or 3 songs with them. I can look that up for you.
Do we
That's
have a
great.
recording of that? I would love to hear that.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay,
That's fabulous. So how much time do we have time for 2 more or 1 more?
sure.
2 more?
We have time for 2 more. What do you want to
Okay.
do?
The 2 more I want to do, I want to do a version that he does of Long Black Veil, which is a Lefty Frizzell song that, of course, Johnny Cash made famous, with David Grisman and Tony Rice. And then I want to kind of take it out with I Shall Be Released, a 1990 version from Senator Raphael, and send that out to my dear friend Yossi Turner. Maybe he's listening in Jerusalem, or I'll 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 email him the thing when it comes out. Who is a very close friend and also a musical partner. We played together for many years with him and his brother Dan when he was in the States. So and we used to play Long Black Veil and I Shall Be Released. So let's play Long Black Veil, which is again a beautiful tune. And Garcia was very very fond of Lefty Frizzell. He talks about Lefty Frizzell a bunch of times and plays a number of his tunes. And he does this with Tony Rice, the great Nashville guitar player, and David Grisman. Is number 19.
Okay, and that's with David Grisman from the Pizza Tapes?
I think it's from the Pizza Tapes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes at night, when the cold winds blow in a long black veil, she cries over my bones. She walks these hills in a long black veil. She visits my grave when the night winds wail. Nobody knows, nobody sees, nobody knows
Beautiful. You know, I really love the Chieftains version of that. Have you ever heard the Chieftains
Yeah,
do
yeah. The chief,
Bale?
great.
Mick
Yeah.
Jagger.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And also, when he played one of the interesting things about the Tony Rice recording, the pizza tapes, is that he wasn't the only one playing lead guitar. He was able to kind of lay back a little bit because
Mhm.
Tony Rice just kind of filled in a lot of it. So I know we have one more time for one more, maybe. I just wanted to end on this note. I mean, I remember as I was listening to one of the tunes that in the interview that Garcia did in one of the many Rolling Stones Grateful Dead stories, they asked him what his first reaction was after taking LSD for the first time. And he had a great response. He said, I realized that there's more to the world than they were telling us. And
Amen.
I think that's the gift. That's his gift, basically. And it's true in his music, and I think it's true in life in general. So let's take it out with "I Shall Be Released" from San Rafael, California, 1990.
We will. And before we do that, we want to thank you, Shaul, for putting together this beautiful show. Literally, we could go on for hours. There's so much to look at.
Yeah.
Please come back again next year. And people who are watching this live or on the recording, this is our annual fundraiser, the 12th annual. But you know what? I was just doing the math. And Steve, we are now in our 140th month of broadcasting 24/6 live, throwing this internet radio stream back and forth across the universe from Steve. Well, we both started at the same place in Nachlaot, but anyway,
talk about eternity.
Talk about eternity, and we are 100% listener supported internet radio. We're asking people to please pay attention to the fact that this is our one and only annual fundraiser. We don't hotgad Chinik all year long for money. Once a year we come along, we do the greatest thing we can think of doing, which is the 9 days of Jerry. And during that time, we ask you to throw some spare change into our virtual guitar case and keep us on the air for another year, because people don't live by bread alone, but by every note that proceedeth from the guitar of Jerry, Lahavdil, and etc. But you know what I'm saying, people. We can't do it without you. So Shaul, thanks for being a part of our
and Shaul,
it's my pleasure.
Next time you're in Yerushalayim, bring your banjo. You always have a seat in our studio.
Yeah. Whenever I come to Yerushalayim, I always end up playing at Jeff Spitzer's house in Jerusalem.
Well, just let us know when you're around.
And thank you, Lorelai, and thank you, Steve, for all that you do, and everyone out there. Please, give a few rubles. It really helps, and you're doing great work and showing us there's more to the world than they've been telling us.
That's right.
We're doing God's work here on Radio Free Nachlaot.
Okay.
Bye, everybody. Here we go.
Happy Jerry.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I have to cut out at the moment. So thanks again. I'll see you. Bye. Lorelai, catch you tomorrow.
Say every man can be replaced. They say every distance is not near. But I remember every face of every man who put me here. I've seen my light come shining from the west. this lonely crowd. Man who swears he's not to blame. All day long you hear him crying out so loud, crowding out that he was framed. I've seen my life come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, I shall be relieved. protection. They say that every man must fall. Yet I swear I see my reflection somewhere so high above this wall. I've seen my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, I shall be relieved.
Just breaks your heart.
Yeah.
Your heart 1,000 times over and over again.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much, Shaul. I'm going to turn off the recording and say bye-bye to all of you in Facebook land. See you later. Okay, here we go. Hold on.